The Youngers face difficulties that stem directly from racism. When the Youngers try to move into a white neighborhood, the homeowner's spokesperson tries to convince them to reverse their decision. Carl Lindner makes negative assumptions about the Youngers. He thinks they will be bad for the neighborhood just because they are black. The murder of George Floyd last year has demonstrated that racism still exists today. The police officers involved in the arrest of George Floyd acted in a way that resulted George Floyd unjustly losing his life. Many people believe that this situation could have been avoided if the policemen had not assumed that George Floyd was a dangerous or a criminal. The Younger situation is much less dire than George Floyd's, but they are still treated malevolently as a result of negative assumptions. I learned from the New York Times article Black Lives Matter may be the largest movement in U.S. history that last summer the Black Lives Matter protests were some of the biggest protests ever. Many black people showed up to stand discrimination. Even though it may not seem so at first, these current events are similar to Younger situations. While Youngers are not able to attend large protests, there are probably very few civil rights protests at the time. Their choice to move into the white neighborhood, even when discouraged by homeowners and association, is an act of defiance and protest against racism. Both the Youngers and black people today are tired of being discriminated against and decided to act. People like the Youngers may have laid the groundwork for protests in the future. Choosing to move into white neighborhood could have inspired other black people to defy norms as well. Eventually, people may have been inspired to protest. In fact, we know they were during the civil rights movement of 1960s. The Black Lives Matter protest started through connections like-minded people on social media who came together to talk about the black experience. Benita also makes connection with like-minded people. Asugai tells her to wear her hair naturally, and she does, defying the racialized beauty standards of the time. If Benita and Asugai had social media accounts, they might have found other people with similar worldviews and formed a larger movement. I hope the black community will be able to live without discrimination in the future. I think that too little has changed since the Youngers' time. It does not make me very optimistic. However, it does make me optimistic that there are people that are willing to stand up to injustice. Both the Youngers and the protesters do just that.